Hello, happy St. Patrick's Day, and welcome to Beyond Books, where we talk about books from Book of the Month Club and beyond. I'm your host, I'm Renee. Let's get started with a book review. This book review is on one of my Book of the Month choices, Killers of the Flower Moon. This is a true crime story. It was first published in April of 2017. And that's when it was a Book of the Month choice. I chose to spend my one credit this month, the month of March 2024, on this book rather than one of the choices that they had for this month. This book has also won the Edgar Allan Poe Award. It was a finalist for the National Book Award, and it won many other awards as well. And I'm sure everyone is familiar with the movie. Just came out last year, 2023, by Martin Scorsese. And unfortunately, it did not win any Oscars. But I know a lot of people really enjoyed the movie. So I've not seen it. Need to take a look at that. The other night on my live stream, I said that Matt Damon was in it. But yeah. I was thinking of Leonardo DiCaprio. So, not a movie buff or a movie critic. I think I probably should stick with books. But anyway, let's talk about what this book is about. So let's start with the title, Killers of the Flower Moon. Okay, so here's what that refers to. It's explained in the first paragraph of the book. In April, millions of tiny flowers spread over the Blackjack Hills and vast prairies in the Osage Territory of Oklahoma. There are Johnny Jump-Ups and Spring Beauties and Little Bluets. The Osage writer John Joseph Matthews observed that the galaxy of petals makes it look as if the gods had left confetti. In May, when coyotes howl beneath an unnervingly large moon, taller plants, such as spiderworts and black-eyed Susans, begin to creep over the tinier blooms, stealing their water and light. The necks of the smaller flowers break and their petals flutter away, and before long they are buried underground. That is why the Osage Indians refer to May as the time of the flower-killing moon. Actually, the subtitle kind of explains a lot about the story as well. The Osage murders and the birth of the FBI. So the Osage are one of the Indian nations that is prevalent in Oklahoma. Obviously, the multiple murders drew the attention, eventually, of the FBI, which at the time was a newly formed department within the U.S. government. And we also see by the cover that oil is involved. So what could possibly go wrong? So at the turn of the century, oil was discovered beneath Osage land. And the Osage Indians were aware of these oil deposits and managed to keep their rights in relation to future profits from the oil discoveries. And they began to receive allotments once the oil was extracted from their land. They became rich by anyone's standards, rich enough to be able to afford servants, chauffeurs. They built mansions, sent their children to study in Europe. But then in the 1920s, or I think just before the 1920s, and maybe 1917 was first time, they started to be murdered, kind of one by one, killed off. The family of one woman in particular, her name is Molly Burkhart, one of the major characters in the story. Her family became a prime target. The killings took place in several different ways: shootings, bombings, poisonings, mysterious accidents. Many of those who dared to investigate the murders were themselves killed. So it became a situation where no one really wanted to speak to investigators, and there were many loose and dead ends when it came to gathering and compiling the evidence needed to solve the killings. So eventually, the newly created FBI took up the case. At the time, the FBI had a young director, and his name was J. Edgar Hoover. You may have heard that name as being not only the first director of the FBI, but a very long-time director of the FBI. Prior to the 30s, the FBI was called, I believe, the Bureau of Investigation. Yeah, the Bureau of Investigation, the BOI. Didn't have a great reputation. He was the director of it at that time. Then when it turned to the FBI, this was one of the first cases they took on, and he remained the director. He remained the director all the way until his death, which was not until 1972. So this is what he looked like in 1924 when he was first getting started with his career. There is a young J. Edgar Hoover. I'd never seen a photo of him looking so young. I remember him looking more like this. And he had a long career. He had somewhat of a spotted career, but that's a whole nother story. What he did was he hired a former Texas Ranger named Tom White to help him try to unravel the mystery of what was happening to the Osage. White put together an undercover team, including a Native American agent who conducted investigations in the region. And that was really kind of a key thing in gaining some of the trust of the members of the tribe and getting to people to, somewhat work with him. So towards the end of the story, the killer's plot is eventually revealed. So case closed, everyone goes to jail, end of story? Unfortunately not. Even in the final chapters of the book, as David Grann is finishing his research for the book and is talking to the descendants of the victims of these crimes, they're still bringing out to him more evidence, more stories, and more information that sheds even further light on this conspiracy. So by some accounts, with all things being taken into consideration, hundreds of Osage were likely murdered. Sometimes the deaths were attributed to other factors, but in all, the death rate for the Osage Indians during this time, which they later referred to as the Reign of Terror, far exceeded the national average. So it's probably the largest and most shocking case of mass murder that you've never heard of until this book came out, and now movie. So what did I think of the book? Well, I thought it was very good. It was well written. It presented a lot of information in a very straightforward way, and it really held my interest. I would give this book 4.4 out of 5 stars, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes true crime, stories about conspiracies, investigations, history, particularly of the West and of the Native people. It's an interesting story, and again, very well presented. I loved the photographs in the story. I think they really helped me to keep the different characters straight in my mind, who was who. and the photos made, you know, the characters kind of come alive for me. The author really, he did justice to these victims. I could see them as people. And it just will never cease to amaze me how cruel and uncaring people can be towards each other, particularly when the other is involved, right? Other culture, other race, other sexual orientation, other identity, etc. So that's my review. I thank you very much for watching. I just quickly too want to thank everyone who reached out to me the other night, Friday, for my live stream. So many of you had nice things to say, and you are encouraging me to continue. So I have my next live stream planned for Friday, April the 19th at 7 p.m. again. So it'll be the same time frame, also the third Friday of the month. And I'm thinking about a topic, but what I'm thinking maybe is something like the YouTube experience. Why do we do this? So if you have a YouTube channel, please join me in the discussion. And even if you don't have a channel, I'd still like to know your thoughts. What's good, what's not so good, what surprises you, what are the pits and the hits of YouTube, and what channels do you like and why? So I hope you do like my channel. And if you do, I hope you'll give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe, ring the notification bell, leave me a comment. So, to close, you are the author of your own story. You write it every day in your own words. So let them shine. Thanks, and have a great day.